Hello, Dragon Tank 1400 here, and this is going to be my top 100 works of animation. This is going to be the first video that goes from 100 to 81. And what do I mean by works of animation? I mean cartoons, anime, that's Japanese animation. It's technically not just Japanese anymore, but it's a little different. And of course, animated movies as well. That's really, I think that's all that's on my list. Now, a little bit of caveat here: if you're like your favorite works of animation isn't on this list, A, I might have never seen it. B, I'm just may not have gotten into it, may not be my taste. 3, I might have seen it but not seen enough of it, not really, because I haven't seen every animation either. So there's that. So maybe listen in the comments below about like kind of your favorite works of animation. Of course, remember this is just 100 to 81, so there's gonna be 80 more after this. So my number 100 is El Tigre: The Adventures of Manny Rivera. I think I'm saying that right. I don't think so. Probably not. Anyway, so El Tigre is number 100 for obvious reasons. Out of this list, it's my least favorite show, and I like messed with like 138. I didn't exactly put them in order, and I was just like, are there any of these shows here? Can I think of anything else that I liked better than El Tigre? And the answer is no. That's why I made the 100. It basically just squeezed on the list. I enjoyed watching it. I don't know exactly when it was like airing or whatever. However, I enjoyed watching it on like Nicktoons or whatever channel it was. It's basically a show where the main character struggles between like, does he want to do good and does he want to do evil. His dad is a very good guy, a good superhero. Oh, by the way, he has like superpowers with his Tigre gloves or whatever. And then, so his dad's good, and he has superpowers as well. He has like the boots or something. I don't know. Like I said, this is my number 100. It's been a while since I've seen it. And then his dad is evil. His dad's not like completely evil either. Like he is very loyal to his family. However, he likes stealing stuff and everything. So it's kind of his grandpa kind of has a little bit of a story arc, a little bit about helping his family over like doing evil. So it's just like it's kind of crossing a line for him, which he's one of more of the interesting characters to me. And I kind of like that struggle between El Tigre, how he does good, but he also does bad. Like he like kind of walks that line, and he doesn't know what to choose yet. It's an interesting dynamic that I enjoyed, and the show was kind of funny. It was interesting. It was definitely enough to kind of squeeze on this list, if you will, and I personally did enjoy it. Number 99 is Codename Kids Next Door. Now, Codename Kids Next Door is a show basically about 5 kids, even though later on there becomes more, that are doing these secret missions, or missions if you will, against the adults that are trying to basically bring down kids or whatever. The show like kind of puts like grown-ups against kids, and it's kind of weird that like someone like me like would enjoy the show, because like from a moral standpoint, like this, I don't really like the idea of kids basically rising up against their parents. However, the show does work. It is definitely entertaining, and kind of the character interaction between like the 5 people are so different that that's kind of what really draws me into the show. It's not the plot. The plots are like very simple, and like you basically have this grown-up villain trying to do something against the kids, and then you have like the kids trying to stop them, and the kids have some like 2x4 technology, I think that's what they call it, but it's very like advanced technology, especially for kids. However, in the world of like that show, it does like kind of make sense. And it really why this show's on the list is because of basically the character interaction. It was definitely interesting seeing like they go by numbers, by the way, and it was interesting to see like number 3 and number 4, like how they kind of like each other or whatever. That was definitely interesting. And it was interesting seeing like number 5 like kind of rise up to be the leader when number 1's not there. It was like these characters kind of drove me into the show. Anyway, so that's my number 99, Codename Kids Next Door. My number 98 is Yugioh GX. Now, out of the 3 Yu-Gi-Oh shows I sort of watched, the original, GX, and Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, which I want to go back at one point and actually view every episode. I've only seen a few of those. This one's my least favorite, and kind of because it doesn't have like a plot structure to it overall. It does, like it kind of does, but it's more like, oh, they're here to have fun. They're at this school to have fun. It doesn't really get serious, I believe, and I mean it doesn't really get serious until like the end of until like season 2, really, to be honest. And then you kind of actually deal with the shadow realm. The show does progressively get darker, but at the beginning it was just kind of basically Jaden like dueling people for fun and trying to, he says, like, get your game on or whatever. And his character does develop over time, and there's this whole thing where he becomes the Supreme King and everything. And I thought those episodes were definitely interesting overall, but like the whole structure of the show, I did like the first Yu-Gi-Oh and like the 5Ds one a little bit better, and the other ones I haven't seen and I probably never will. One thing about Yu-Gi-Oh in general I like is that they actually make like they make the card game interesting. Now, the decks they use you would never use competitively. They're horrible, and kind of how they top deck stuff is like kind of ridiculous. However, it makes the show interesting when they need this one card in their deck that's never really been in their deck before. So somehow, and it's very specific, however they draw it, they make the show really interesting, and they make the show work. How, even if it doesn't really relate to how the duels, how the card game would actually be played out. So I definitely thought that was interesting. Interesting show, Yu-Gi-Oh G. So that's my number 98, Yu-Gi-Oh GX. So my number 97 actually brings me back to like actually when I was a kid, and that's Popeye. Now, Popeye is a black and white cartoon, animated way before I was born. However, it was still on like Cartoon Network. I believe it was Cartoon Network. I don't really remember. I was like in elementary school, and it was interesting seeing like it was like I think it was the only black and white cartoon show I ever watched. However, it was interesting seeing like this Popeye like just rescue this girl from this big guy, him like struggling to do it, and then he eats the spinach, and then he's like, and then he just wins. It's just like, it was like a very simple concept that I did enjoy, and it was just I think it was done well. Like I enjoyed that show, and the black and white. It was a very old cartoon, so it had like a very old like sense of humor, how they used to do it, like even before like Bugs Bunny and stuff, but it's kind of like that same style. And I'll get into like Looney Tunes later on this list, but I did enjoy Popeye when I was watching it, like back when I was in elementary school. It was a while ago. Anyway, so that's my, what is this, number 97, Popeye. My 96 kind of goes in the same like caveat as Popeye, and that's like Tom and Jerry. I don't know exactly when Tom and Jerry came out in this relation to like Looney Tunes and all that stuff. It is a different show. However, it was just like that like old slapstick comedy where the frying pan goes in Tom's face, like all that stuff, like all that like comical stuff, that like physical comedy that happens to Tom and Jerry. And those two characters actually never speak. Like all the other characters do, like the dog and everything. Well, the puppy doesn't, he like barks, but Tom and Jerry never speak, if memory serves. And some of my favorite episodes were actually the episodes that Tom won. Now, the episodes he won, he never beat Jerry. However, like he he beat Jerry, and Jerry was actually suffering, and it was usually because Jerry did something like really bad. And I like that kind of concept, seeing like the antagonist of the story, Tom, actually win. And you almost like I was like kind of rooting for Tom like through it, because he goes all through all this stuff because of this mouse all the time. Like he gets hit by a fry, he gets all this stuff happens to him. It's just like it's like yeah, it's like Roadrunner and Coyote, like from Looney Tunes. It's like sometimes you just want to see the Coyote win because he just loses so much, and that's how I felt. I'm glad in this show that they had like Tom win sometimes. So that's my number 96, Tom and Jerry. So my 95 is the first animated movie on the list, and that's Alpha and Omega. Not any of its sequels. I have not watched them and never will. They look like absolute trash. However, the original one I do enjoy, and partly because I personally like wolves. And it didn't, it's an animated movie. It didn't exactly get wolves exactly right, but some of their like mannerisms and stuff like that, it was definitely interesting to see these animated wolves go on into the adventure. And I really liked how the Omega character, I haven't seen this movie in a while, so I don't remember what the characters' names are. However, I really like to see like the Omega Wolf, the main one, kind of rise up and like save the Alpha Wolf. It was definitely an interesting concept, and it was definitely like a good story in that sense. I personally enjoyed it. I do have a bias towards wolves, and to be honest, if I didn't have a bias towards wolves, this movie might have not made the list. But I really did enjoy it, and I do have to like see it soon. Maybe it should be higher up in the list. I don't know. Maybe it should be off the list. I don't know. But definitely for me right now, 995 is Alpha and Omega. So my number 4 is The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's another movie. Now it's a claymation. You might not consider it like animation or whatever, but I'm gonna put it on this list anyway because these are very loose definitions. That's why I said works of animation. However, The Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely my favorite Halloween movie. I'm not a big fan of Halloween, and it's just my favorite Halloween movie. It's one that I enjoyed as a kid and still enjoy to this day. You have it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't remember the character's name, but you have the main Pumpkin King dude, or skeleton, or whatever he was, the main guy, and he actually discovers kind of the other holidays, and he discovers kind of what they're all about, and he wants to like kind of experiencing them. However, he realizes that he needs to like stick to Halloween and not like do Christmas and not do these other holidays. So it was definitely it was definitely like an interesting concept. I also liked the main girl, and how she really liked I can't remember his name. Oh my gosh, she really liked the main character, and she definitely ended up with him. The main villain was definitely interesting, the boogeyman or whatever, and how he tricked the trick-or-treaters or whatever to do his bidding. Part of it was kind of gross with the boogeyman guy. It was like worms or whatever, and I don't like worms. However, overall, I thought the movie was definitely well done. So that's my number 94, The Nightmare Before Christmas. My number 93 is another movie. We've got a string of animated movies going on here, and that is Mulan. Mulan's definitely an interesting one. I've actually only seen the movie once, and it was like probably about 5 to 10 years after it came out. I didn't really plan on watching it, but I think it was on Disney or something like that one time, and I was just like, okay, I'll watch it. And it was definitely interesting. I definitely enjoyed the movie as a whole. It like took that concept of someone like wanting to be the hero, but at the same time, because of culture of reasons, in this case because she's a female, they didn't want her to be in the war. And at first, like, you got to see her struggle, and she couldn't really do anything, but she ended up working hard and ended up actually being one of the better soldiers there. So it was definitely a a good movie about like how hard work can succeed even in the face of adversity. So it was a good message, good movie overall. So that's my number 90. What was it? 93, Mulan. My number 92 is The Road to El Dorado. Now, The Road to El Dorado is basically just a movie where you got these two really scammers actually you have a treasure map or a map, and they find El Dorado, and the people of El Dorado think of them as gods, so they of course use this to their advantage. And as things go on, like the main villain comes in, and there's a few antagonists here and there. However, the movie was definitely enjoyable because you got these two kind of goofballs, these scammers, getting everything they ever wanted, all the gold, and just because the citizens of El Dorado want them, I think they're gods. It's kind of like a funny concept and everything, and it's definitely an interesting one, and I personally enjoyed the movie because of because just how funny these characters are and the interaction between the characters themselves. That's what kind of sold the movie for me. This is another one, just like Mulan. I just caught it on like TV or something. Like I just randomly watched it and enjoyed it. I haven't watched it since, which is why I don't know any of the characters. However, that's my number 92, The Road to El Dorado. My number 91 is Dragons, Riders of Berk. This show is basically sort of a spin-off, or not really a spin-off, but almost like a continuation of How to Train Your Dragon 1, and it's between How to Train Your Dragon 1 and How to Train Your Dragon 2. It happens like actually way before How to Train Your Dragon 2 and a little bit after the first one. It was an interesting show. I kind of stopped watching it after a while, and one thing that interested me was this like seeking out of basically more Night Furies for Toothless. I did enjoy that concept, and I of course like How to Train Your Dragon. Some of the things there are some things about the show I didn't like in comparison to How to Train Your Dragon. I don't think it was done as well, like it wasn't written as well, and it was kind of like for some reason episodic kind of a thing going on. Sometimes they had like a season finale where that wasn't episodic. It was like sometimes like a big battle and stuff like that. They one of the main villains ends up turning good at the end. It was definitely an interesting show overall, and it was good to see like explore this world a little more. However, I almost wish they would have explored the world more from a different town, from someone different perspective than Toothless. And the reason I say that is because they kind of like have his character develop like he wants to be accepted by his dad and everything like that. And that's like his main thing, but it was like that was already solved in How to Train Your Dragon, the movie. That's not what they shouldn't have continued that conflict, or maybe they should have for like a couple episodes, but then they should have stopped. So that's kind of my little complaint about it. Otherwise it would be way higher on the list. However, it still made the list, and that's my 91, Dragons, Riders of Berk. My number 90 is Dragon Ball GT. Now, out of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, and Dragon Ball GT, this one is my least liked on the list, and I think most Dragon Ball fans would actually agree with me on this. Now, one thing this series does right is, of course, it's Dragon Ball. There's fighting in this scene. There's really some good action. There's actually, I would argue, some of the best villains of all Dragon Ball in this series. Baby's one, and I did like Omega Shenron, but probably some people didn't. I wish they would have done more with Super 17. I mean, the show itself had some problems. One of them was making Goku a kid again. Some of the other ones is that they should have focused a little more on Vegeta, Gohan, Krillin's my favorite character of Dragon Ball Z, so Krillin, but probably most people would disagree with me on that one. Anyway, so I really do enjoy the series of Dragon Ball as a whole, and Dragon Ball GT just happens to be my least favorite because of some of the problems. Still on this list though, and I still enjoy it. And if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you haven't seen Dragon Ball GT, I'd recommend like watching it just because it's definitely interesting. And the first like arc of the baby arc is, in my opinion, like the best arc of Dragon Ball GT. And the villain is probably one of the best villains of all of Dragon Ball. Not the best, but one of the best. Anyway, so that's my number 90, Dragon Ball GT. My number 89 is the Jetsons. Now, I don't like Jetsons as much as the Flintstones. The Flintstones is higher up on this list, or it's a lower number, basically. However, I did enjoy it. The Jetsons is a futuristic family that they have flying cars, they have robots, they have all this like space stuff, and they actually live like really far up in the sky. It's kind of like Cloud City, I believe it's called, from Star Wars, in a slight way. However, it was definitely it's definitely like a funny show. I usually get this family interaction, stuff like that. Mr. Jetson is like obviously the star, and like some of his interactions with his boss were like just hilarious, and it's definitely like an enjoyable show. It's one that I saw like as a kid growing up and stuff, and I'm not even sure, like it was on Cartoon Network, I believe, and it was like one of those shows that was like way older than that, or maybe it wasn't. I haven't looked this up. However, that's my number 89, the Jetsons. My number 88 is the Batman. Now, there's a lot of animated series of Batman, but this particular one was my kind of introduction to Batgirl. And I don't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was like in the early 2000s or something like that. Anyway, I didn't really enjoy like Bruce Wayne. I didn't really enjoy like Batman in this series. He was kind of like not Batman in my personal opinion. However, like I did enjoy like the introduction of Batgirl. What's her name? Her last name's Gordon or whatever. Man, I'm really bad with these names. Anyway, that's kind of what I enjoyed about it. It was kind of my introduction to different Batman characters that it wasn't introduced before, and I kind of got to see some of the characters that I was introduced before as well. So it was definitely an interesting show, and I really liked that dynamic of Batgirl and like Batman and stuff. Like it was definitely an interesting dynamic in that show, because she's just a kid, and he at first doesn't want her to do this stuff, and finally he actually accepts her as like his sidekick or whatever. And then later on, Robin gets introduced, and it's like right away. It's kind of funny. Anyway, so that's my number 88, the Batman. So my number 87 is Generator Rex. Now, Generator Rex is like a post-apocalyptic show about Rex and about how he can cure these emos. I think that's what they call it. It's been a while since I've seen the show, and I hadn't seen every episode. However, it was definitely like a fun show, and if it didn't get canceled, and if it actually had time to progress its plot and characters like I believe they would have attended to, it would have been probably one of the it would have definitely been higher up on this list, I think, for sure. I mean, the show definitely has some problems with it, and it was just really too dark for Cartoon Network, the demographic they were going for. But it was a fun show, and it was like a dark show as well. It was like kind of my limit of how dark I want to show. It kind of reached that limit and kind of maybe went a little bit beyond it at times. I did enjoy the main villain of it. Can't remember his name or whatever. However, he was like so confident, and he was like so powerful at first. Like you kind of want a villain to be like that. And Rex really was really so angry with him and stuff. And even when he had like immunity, diplomatic immunity, Like it was like he was just like casually dodging like Rex's blast. I remember that. That was like one of the first episodes I saw of the show. Haven't seen every episode. Probably never will because the show's not going to be on Cartoon Network anymore. Might be able to like buy it online or something. However, the show didn't get its proper like time to really shine, so I might not actually end up doing that. I might eventually. Anyway, so that's my 87 Generator Rex. So my number 86 is the movie Shrek. Not Shrek 2, not any of the stupid spin-offs, Shrek 3 or whatever. I couldn't even finish watching those movies. Anyway, but the original Shrek was a pretty good movie overall. It was just this like classic, really this classic story about someone who really doesn't belong, and like him actually finding like a group of people that actually he belongs to. Wreck-It Ralph is kind of similar to that in a sense, but I believe it did way better. Shrek as itself was a pretty good movie. I mean, like anything else, it does have its problems and stuff. It was funny. The donkey was definitely funny, and him with like the dragon, that was it was like when you know your back's up against the wall, maybe it's time to smooth that lady. It was just hilarious. It was just like that part was funny, and like Shrek and Fiona was funny as well. So the movie was funny. I'll probably never end up seeing it again. However, it's my number 86 now. That's Shrek. My number 85 is Static Shock. When this show was actually airing, I believe in the early 2000s. Yeah, I pretty much like watched it every day. I love this show. It was just like this superhero show about Static, and there was like some kind of explosion or something like that caused like all these normal people to have basically superpowers, and Static was pretty much the only one that was actually being the hero in it all, because it was like done at night, and it was done like in a location where a lot of bad people would be. So a lot of them were villains. Not all of them, but most of them like were villains even before. And it was definitely interesting, like his friendship, like Richie, and like his like struggle to be a hero. Like the first like few episodes, it was good to kind of see him mess up and see him grow as a superhero over time. It was definitely really interesting. So that's my number 85, Static Shock. My number 84 is Total Drama. More specifically, Total Drama Island. That's the season 1, Action season 2. I can't remember the 3 one, the World Tour one, the 3rd season, and I guess maybe Revenge of the Island maybe was pretty good. But I stopped watching the Total Drama series because it kind of got ridiculous. But when it was first airing, it was definitely interesting because it was a cartoon reality show, and I think that's like the first time they did that. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, I think it was like the first time, and it was definitely interesting because like every like week you didn't really know who was gonna get kicked off, but of course everything was planned. So like if you kind of knew like where the episode was going and all that stuff, you could kind of predict who was going to get kicked off during the episode, and like later on you could be like, well, this character's left, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be like these characters at the end. However, it was definitely interesting, that dynamic, and that whole like 2 teams. It was kind of based off Survivor, I believe, but it was and it was a camp setting as well, which always interests me. I do enjoy nature and stuff. It was the first season was like probably the best, and I did like the 2nd and 3rd season and 4th season as well. But the first season, and like seeing Owen as like a goofball, and like I remember like the trailer for the thing showed Owen and like showed him like Trip or whatever, said probably not this guy, but he ends up like, spoilers if you haven't seen like a very old show, Owen ends up winning the first season. It's like, it's kind of like funny. and then you got like Heather, who's like the main antagonist of it, and honestly, like she ends up like winning like Revenge of the Island in one of the in one of the versions as well. So I thought that was definitely interesting, seeing seeing like an antagonist actually become a protagonist character in the series. That was interesting. So that's my number 80. What is it? 84. Total drama, particularly like, you know, what I said. My number 83 is Toy Story 2. Now this is my least favorite out of like the 3 Toy Stories, and so Toy Story and Toy Story 3 would be further down on the list. However, I still enjoyed this one. It focused on Woody, and I kind of had the main villain be the guy, the nerd guy or whatever, who stole Woody to make it like a huge profit, and the old man guy or whatever who's part of the Western set for the toys. Anyway, it was definitely like an interesting concept with that, and it was definitely like Woody himself kind of got, if I remember right, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I believe he got some like character growth there. I believe he was like going through some hard times or feeling like he doesn't belong and everything. He was questioning whether he should go to Andy and stuff, and like Jessie was definitely a highlight in that, because her story of her previous owner leaving her really probably resonated with Woody. So I did like that concept of it. So that's my number 83, Toy Story 2. My number 82 is Gravity Falls. Now, most people would probably have this way higher on their list. I don't, because of one big problem, and that's Mabel. The show was great. It had like that mystery aspect to it. I mean, I wish we kind of would have lasted maybe a little bit longer, and maybe flush out Bill's character a little more, and flush out kind of Bill's like dimension or whatever. Like I think he was in the 2-dimension space or something like that. There's so much more they could have done with the show, but like it got canceled or whatever. And however, like Mabel was really annoying, and like she's very selfish, and having a selfish character is fine. Characters have faults, and I enjoy when characters have faults. What I don't enjoy is when you have a main character that has these main critical faults, and they don't grow and they don't learn, and you don't take that fault and actually grow it, and it's in this fault isn't not even acknowledged by the other characters. They just let Mabel do whatever she wants. I don't like Mabel as a character. However, Dipper was really good. And there's other characters that were pretty good. Seuss was always funny. So that's my number 82, Gravity Falls, a really good mystery show if you've never seen it. My number 81, and the last one of this segment, is Code Lyoko. Now, Code Lyoko is in an anime. I'm not really sure exactly if it's classified as an anime or not. I'd have to look that up. However, it's basically a show that takes place in like the real world, but it also takes place in this digital world, and then they can go back in time, and anything that took place didn't take place, but they would remember it unless like a character died. So it was definitely interesting, an interesting concept. Kind of has like that vibe of going to like cyberspace as well as like the real world, and in cyberspace like these characters get like kind of superpowers as well. So it's definitely an interesting concept, and as the characters and as the show goes on, it gets like more and more complicated. I never really finished watching the show, so I'm not sure exactly how it ends. But when I was watching it, it was like on Toonami on Cartoon Network in the, I believe, early 2000s again. And I definitely did enjoy it. It was one of those shows I like kind of watched every day. I was waiting for the new episode every week or whatever. It was a really fun episode. I mean, show or whatever. The show's got some problems. Some character development problems, really. I wish they would have developed and grown the characters a little more. However, other than that, like Lyoko was a great show, and it is my 81. So that's the end for this like part 1 video of my top 100 works of animation. This was 100 to 81. Next video, of course, doing 80 to 61. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.